Very interesting ideas coming together here. So I'm going to continue on with Margaret Barker on page 209 in her text. So, well, she says, wisdom inspired the kings, yet this was also the Holy Spirit from on high, according to Wisdom 9:17 and 7:7. Wisdom passed into holy souls, and this made them prophets, Wisdom 7:27. And yet it was the Spirit that entered Ezekiel, Ezekiel 2 and 2. This same Spirit, mind you, this goddess. The Spirit was poured out. Notice the water imagery here, water and Spirit. The Spirit was poured out and brought the gift of vision and prophecy as a sign of the last times, according to Joel 2:28. Wisdom opened the eyes and was given to the elect in the last times. And this is the description of the seer as the Hapekea in the Lakish letters, which Nibley, in his analysis of the Lakish letters, applied to Lehi, because his sons accused him of being a visionary man. And this is the translation of the Hapekea, someone who has a vision, who has his eyes opened. Well, early Christian tradition, going back to Barker, early Christian tradition remembered the Spirit as the mother and as the one enthroned in heaven. Origen, one of the early church fathers, he quoted a saying of Jesus from the now lost Gospel according to the Hebrews, "My mother, the Holy Spirit, took me by one of my hairs and transported me to the great mountain Tabor." This was a discussion on John 2:12. Now Jerome, another early Christian commentator, commenting on Isaiah 11:2, which reads, "The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him," quoted from the same source an account of Jesus' baptism. Here is Jerome's commentary on the Gospel according to the Hebrews, in other words. It says, "The Holy Spirit descended and rested upon him, and said unto him, My son, in all the prophets I was waiting for thee. Thou art my first begotten Son, that reignest forever." Now she notes the Gospel of Philip denied that Mary conceived by the Holy Spirit. And here was the rationale. This is so remarkable. When did a woman ever conceive by a woman? The implication, of course, is they understood the Spirit as female. Isaiah, in his vision of heaven, saw the ascended Lord, sat at the right hand of the great glory, and the angel of the Holy Spirit sat on the left. That's the ascension of Isaiah. Well, she's on page 210. She says, Wisdom, Sophia, in the Gnostic texts. And these are refugees, brought these Gnostic texts to Egypt. We're always into Egypt, it seems. Well, the Wisdom, Sophia, appears throughout the Gnostic texts, either as the consort and counterpart of the second deity, the great Archon, or as his mother, another echo of the royal cult. Wisdom frequently appears as the name of an angel, one half of a pair. Astapheos, feminine name is wisdom. The great Archon was called the Perfect One, and his female name is all-wise begettress, wisdom. It is also said that she resembles her brother and her consort. Well, the second deity's consort was the great wisdom. This is according to the book, The Wisdom of Jesus Christ. Wisdom was enthroned. Sabaoth sits on a throne concealed by a great light cloud, and there is no one with him in the cloud except wisdom, faith. Wisdom Zoe, who is beside Sabaoth. Irenaeus described her. Irenaeus is another early Christian father. He said, "From the first angel who stands by the side of the only begotten has been sent forth one whom they term wisdom." Well, wisdom was the co-creator as well. The heaven was consolidated along with the earth by means of the wisdom of the Aldebaoth. Wisdom Zoe sent her breath into Adam, who was without a soul. Wisdom was called life. And this is the meaning of the name Eve. That is why Eve is called the mother of all living. That's according to the Apocryphon of John. Well, the separation of the Lord and his female consort after the 7th century changes to the Jerusalem cult appears in the Gnostic tradition as the arrogant archon, that is, the arrogant ruler, who claimed he was the only God because he had lost sight of wisdom, his mother, and he did not realize that she existed. On page 211, she continues, perhaps the most remarkable of all the evidence for the survival of the goddess is found in the Kabbalah, where she appears as the Shekinah, meaning the indwelling of God in the world, and many rituals of the Kabbalists depicted the sacred marriage of the Shekinah. She is virtually an independent being and is now in exile, separated from her Lord. The tradition of the Talmud is that the Shekinah went into exile with the children of Israel to Babylon or wherever they went. But the Kabbalists taught that it was the Shekinah herself who was exiled at that time, that a part of God had been separated off, and this is exactly what her devotees said had been the fate of the goddess. When the people of Jerusalem went into exile in Babylon, the Queen of Heaven was banished from her place in the temple cult. And then in an excursus on the mother of the Messiah, the Queen of Heaven, in all of her aspects, is central to the book of Revelation. She returns to her city, first giving birth to the divine child. The harlot who had replaced her as the genius of Jerusalem is destroyed, and the bride can then return from heaven as the heavenly Jerusalem. She gives herself as the gift of resurrection, and her children become citizens of the heavenly city, restored to Eden and eating from the tree of life. That's an too brief synopsis yet again of her book, The Revelation of Jesus Christ. I wanted to touch on that idea that in the early Christianity, the Holy Spirit is understood as the Heavenly Mother, and she is part of the original Trinity. The Trinity is Father, Mother, Son in many early Christian sects. It is not an all-male Trinity, it is an eternal family Trinity. Females are right in there with the males. There is no distinction hardly between them. They are as important as the males. So I wanted to briefly touch on that. Let me see here. Let's see here. Mark H. Gaffney, in his Gnostic Secrets of the Naasines, the initiatory secret teachings of the Last Supper. This is in Inner Traditions, copyright 2004, brand new book. Let me read a little bit of his also. He kind of explains what Barker did. On page 105, in the wisdom literature, we also learn more about the nature of the great feminine companion to the deity. As it happens, she is a marvelous boon to mankind. Wisdom 10:17 waxes eloquently about her. To the saints she gave the wages of their labors. She led them by a marvelous road. She herself was their shelter by day, and their starlight through the night. And in the Song of Songs, which pretends to be the composition of Solomon, but it isn't, we find details of the wondrous union, or the syzygy, of both sides of God, male and female. In the centuries before Jesus, the scribal dialogue about Yahweh's better half, his feminine side, was played out in the last books of the Old Testament. This was a positive and important development because it produced a deeper awareness of the sublime attributes of the Godhead. The process continued in the person of Jesus, who campaigned vigorously against every kind of superstitious nonsense, including society's morally reprehensible treatment of lepers. At issue, time and again, the thing that was brought out here was the old Judaic belief in a vindictive God. The ratification of wisdom by Jesus is also evidenced by his respectful treatment of women. The text of the Naasine sermon confirms that this new awareness of the Divine Mother, that she was absorbed into the Gnostic Christians. The sermon actually quotes a hymn honoring the Mother as the companion to the Father. From thee comes Father, and through thee comes Mother. Two names